All right, so it is Tuesday of my third week of my internal medicine rotation, and this week I am on our ambulatory week, which essentially just means primary care. I think it's becoming less common, but one of the two paths to being a primary care provider is either family medicine or internal medicine. Obviously, pediatrics also counts as primary care, and OBGYN kind of too, but when you think about a primary care that an adult would go to, you can either be family medicine or IM. So as a part of our rotation, our school likes us to do 1 week of outpatient primary care with an internal medicine doctor. And I already kind of have experience with this because my LCP during our preclinical phase was an IM doctor who did a lot of outpatient primary care. So between 10 visits I did with her, 9 of them were in her outpatient office. And the thing with these IM doctors who do outpatient primary care, a lot of the times they will still cover the hospital in some respect. So the way that my LCP worked is every, I think, 5th or 6th weekend, she was on call at the hospital. She would go in and round with whoever was on the IM floor. And then also, she's just always plugged into whenever any of her patients are in the hospital. She might go in and see them in the afternoon. And that's how the doctor that I'm working with right now operates. I don't think he's ever really fully in the hospital for a week like some of the other IM doctors. He does have outpatient primary care schedule, but in the afternoons, if any of his patients that he regularly follows are in the hospital, he'll go in and round on them and see them. So I think that that's a pretty interesting sort of workflow and way to schedule your weeks and days. It's very different from the traditional IM hospitalist where you're on a week and you are looking after this whole team of people. It's more just you have your patients, and if they happen to be in the hospital, then you still go and see them. So this week is a little bit lighter, thankfully. With an outpatient setting, you're not going to be at the hospital at 6 a.m. to pre-round on your patients. Yesterday, Monday, clinic started at 9:30, so I got to sleep in a little bit, so that was really nice. And we get out a little bit earlier too. Both these days have been done around 2 o'clock, and he has gone to the hospital, but he told me that I don't really need to come. There's only a few patients there, nothing super exciting. I think one of them has RSV, so probably wouldn't even actually see him, just from contamination risk point of view. So it's 2 o'clock and I'm home, so that's great. I do really like this setting. It is faster paced because it's a traditional clinic where you have patients every 10-15 minutes. You're in and out quick. Still able to see a lot of cool stuff. Saw someone with Parkinson's today, which I haven't seen a Parkinson's patient yet. There's someone with Ehrlichia, I think it's called. It's one of the tick-borne viruses that is sort of endemic to the Northeast. Lyme is the big one that you always think about, but there's a few others that are lesser known, but still pretty serious. So I saw that, which I was not expecting to see. So yeah, it's been good. And it's also nice to see the sort of longitudinal relationships in primary care. It seems like he's known all of his patients for decades, which is just really cool. Something that you don't really get when you work in the hospital. A lot of the times it's newer patients or patients that frequent, but you don't have that sort of long-term relationship with. Alright, it is Wednesday morning. I'm at clinic a little bit early, and I gotta say, I'm really enjoying the schedule of outpatient because I got up this morning, did a little studying, went to the gym, got some coffee in me. I actually feel ready for the day and fully awake to take care of patients. When you're on the inpatient service, you get up super early, have to get to the hospital at 5-6 a.m. I know my friends on surgery are there before 5 usually, and you're half asleep trying to read up on your patients. But now I've been awake for almost 4 hours. I feel very well rested and just ready to have a busy day at clinic. So today should probably be like 9 to 2 or 3, and then I'll go home. We have a Zoom lecture at 5, I think. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Alright, it is Saturday morning and I've had a pretty exciting past few days. So last time I checked in, I think it was Wednesday before clinic. It was a pretty typical day. Honestly, saw some pretty interesting patients that, had some pretty rare stuff that when I learned about them during preclinical, I was like, oh, I'm never going to see this stuff. So I saw a patient with PBC, which is primary biliary cirrhosis or cholangitis. I've heard it both ways. Basically an autoimmune condition of the biliary tract, which affects the liver as well. Then I also saw a patient with myelodysplastic syndrome, which is a blood disorder, which has a few different subtypes that affect different kinds of your blood cells, like your red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. It's another very rare thing that I was not expecting to see, especially just like in an outpatient clinic. Then Wednesday night we had a virtual lecture about abdominal pain. And yeah, that was pretty much it for Wednesday. Thursday was a very long day, so got up, went to the gym, got to clinic around 9. I was there from 9 until about 1:30, and then I actually had to drive all the way back up to where my campus is, which is like an hour and a half away because we had a practice OSCE. So similar to all of our preclinical classes, we have a formative and a summative OSCE. The formative one doesn't count for anything, it's just for practice, and then the summative one is actually graded. So this week we had our formative one. Pretty interesting that they chose to do it during week 3. Typically for our formative OSCEs, they're like the week before our real one. So my OSCE was from 3 to 6, and once I got there and heard from our clerkship director, it kind of made sense why she chose to do it a little bit earlier on in the clerkship. She said that it was her favorite day of the clerkship, like her favorite curriculum thing we do, just because she intentionally made the cases pretty difficult and not straightforward, and it was really just like a learning opportunity. So I think the reason she made it earlier on is so we could have this sort of critical thinking exercise, and we can actually bring that experience and the things that we learned into the hospital. So we had 2 cases, and like I said, they weren't very straightforward. One of the chief complaints was shortness of breath, the other one was heartburn. She intentionally made like the history and the patient's story and symptoms kind of lead you in many different directions. So we had 25 minutes to see the patient, then afterwards we wrote a note. After we wrote the note, we got some feedback from the SP, and then we had some results to like analyze, and then we could refine our note based on the results. So for both cases, we got an EKG and like some basic labs. So all in all, it wasn't too bad. I actually really liked those cases. A lot of the times on the OSCEs, they're like super straightforward and just like classic and like a home run. So having to think about it a little bit more and really use the results of the test to guide your thinking was a nice exercise, because that's how it is in real life. So that was Thursday. I didn't get home till very late because, like I said, it's like an hour and a half drive, and we didn't get out until like 6:15. So I came home, did a little bit of studying, just went to bed. And then yesterday, Friday, I did not have any outpatient primary care clinic because I was in the ER. So my school does the ER clerkship a little different. We don't have sort of like a set 4, 6, 8 week block like other schools do, and like we do for our other clerkships. We actually have it longitudinally throughout all of our clerkship year. I think that we do this to kind of speed things up because I am in like an accelerated 3-year program, so being able to just sprinkle them in throughout the other clerkships makes a little bit more sense if you're trying to condense things. So it works out to about 2 ER shifts in every block, with the exception of pediatrics, because one of the weeks of peds, you just have a whole week of peds ER. So you get like 4 or 5 shifts during that week. But other than that, like I am on an 8-week internal medicine block and I have only 2 ER shifts. So my first one was yesterday. And all of my classmates that I've talked to about their ER shifts have loved them. It can be a little bit more independent. Things go by faster because you're just constantly running around doing stuff. It's not like internal medicine where you're gonna sit at a table for 3 hours and just talk about patients. I think yesterday probably saw like 10 or 15 patients, which is way more than I normally do. I mean, on my inpatient services, I would be following like 2-3 patients. And since it was my first time and the specific doctor that I was working with, I wasn't super independent. Basically, the way that he likes to do it is we go see the patient together. He can introduce us. He kind of starts with the history. Once he has kind of a general idea of what's going on, he'll leave, start to put in orders while I'll stay, keep interviewing the patient, and then do a physical. And then I'll sort of report back to him and we'll talk about what both of us found and what we wanted to do moving forward. And we're sort of assigned to a particular attending for their whole shift, so we kind of get a real sense of what it's like. At the hospital that I am at, I think the doctors work either like 8 or 10-hour shifts, so my shift was only 7 to 3, which really wasn't that bad, and it went by so fast. Like, I swear, the doctor was like, all right, like, now's a good time to get some lunch. And I was like, what? I've been here for 5 hours already? Like, this is crazy. It went by way faster than any of my days of inpatient medicine, just because, like I said, you're just kind of running around doing stuff, seeing patients. It wasn't like a super crazy day in the ER. I've definitely seen it a lot more full. But either way, I mean, we stayed busy pretty much the whole day. I had to do a lot of studying once I got home because that is sort of the trade-off with an ER shift. Like, when you're on inpatient medicine, whether it's like surgery or IM, there is some downtime throughout the day where you can do some UWorld, do some Anki, while you're just like waiting for things to happen. But with ER, you're just constantly going, so I didn't have any time to sit down and do any studying. So because of that, I had to get it all done when I got home. And then after that, I went to a brewery with some classmates. Was honestly a little surprised some of my classmates made it out because they're on surgery. And I know that they have just been like run into the ground just based on how early they have to get up. I know that they are so tired, but yeah, we just went out for like an hour and a half. It was really nice to see everyone, talk about all of their experiences. I'm on IM, Mackenzie's on FM, there's a few surgery people, a few OBGYN people, so it was nice to sort of debrief and talk about all of our experiences. I've seen people here and there, but haven't really had a chance to sit down in like more of a relaxed setting and just reflect on our experiences. So now today is Saturday, and it is technically our first day of our winter break. So we have from now until basically the new year, so essentially just like the week between Christmas and New Year's off. But it is a very much needed break. I think everyone, especially the people in surgery and OBGYN, are so glad that we have a little bit of time off and they can sleep in, see family, catch up on stuff. I know that I have a lot of research to catch up on and just like kind of tidy up before the new year. I think it's kind of perfect that we had a few weeks of clerkships and then we can take a little bit of a breather and then come back in the new year pretty recharged. I'm going back to Maryland for breaks, so it's gonna be great to see my family and friends, go to some of my favorite restaurants, and generally just relax. All right, well, that is gonna do it for today's video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like below and subscribe if you wanna see videos like this in the future. Thanks, and I will see you in the next one.